The first encounter. A warrior unlike any other. The battlefield was covered in smoke and fire. The air smelled of burning metal, and the ground shook with the echoes of war. General Vessa of the Zarkari Empire stood tall, her black armor gleaming under the blood-red sky. Her forces had crushed the rebel outpost within hours. The battle was supposed to be over, but it wasn't. Vessa narrowed her glowing yellow eyes as a new enemy appeared. One single warrior. A human. Humans were weak. That was what she had always been told. They were fragile, slow, and lacked the power of the Zarkari. But this one was different. He moved like a shadow, his armor scratched and dented, but his stance unshaken. No fear, no hesitation. The human's dark eyes locked onto hers, and Vessa felt something she had never felt before in battle. A strange sense of unease. Her soldiers rushed forward, weapons raised. That was their mistake. The human vanished between them, his movements too fast for the eye to follow. A Zarkari warrior lunged. The human dodged. Another attacked. The human countered with a brutal strike, sending the alien crashing into the dirt. Within seconds, 5 Zarkari warriors lay motionless on the ground. Vessa's grip tightened around her energy blade. Impossible. This was not a normal human. She stepped forward, her voice cold. "Who are you?" The human tilted his head. His face was calm, unreadable. Leon Carter, commander of the 7th Human Resistance Fleet. Vessa had fought many battles, but no one had ever looked at her like this. Not with arrogance, not with fear, but with certainty. He thinks he can win. She would prove him wrong. Vessa launched herself forward, her energy blade slicing through the air. But Leon moved faster. Her blade met nothing but wind. He was already behind her. Vessa spun, striking again. He blocked with his forearm, absorbing the impact as if it was nothing. She barely had time to react before his counterattack came. A single, precise strike. It was not wild, not desperate. It was controlled, measured, perfect. Vessa's vision blurred as pain exploded in her side. She staggered back, clutching her ribs. No one had ever hit her like that. Leon didn't press the attack. He just stood there, watching. "Strength isn't about power," he said. "It's about endurance." Vessa roared in anger and attacked again. Faster, stronger. She was a general of the Zarkari Empire. No human could match her. But Leon was not like other humans. Every attack she made, he avoided. Every strike, he countered. It was like fighting a ghost. Then her strength began to fade. She had fought for hours. Leon, he fought as if he had only just begun. Vessa's breath came in heavy gasps. Her vision swam. She had never struggled like this before. Leon sighed. "Now you understand." She didn't get the chance to respond. He moved in a blur, a single strike to her neck. Vessa's body failed her. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Leon standing over her, calm as ever. Vessa woke up to cold metal against her skin. She was chained, captured. A human warship's ceiling loomed above her, dim lights flickering. Her body ached, her pride burned. And then she saw him. Leon Carter sat across from her, arms crossed, still watching, still waiting. He smirked. "You thought you knew strength." Vessa's fists clenched. For the first time in her life, she was starting to doubt. Prisoner of the human fighter. Vessa's body ached. Her muscles, trained for war, should have felt strong. But now she could barely move. The cold metal cuffs dug into her wrists, the dim glow of the human warship's lights casting long shadows across the walls. She was a prisoner. She had never imagined this moment. Her, a Zarkari general, captured by a single human. But it had happened. And worst of all, she still didn't understand how. Vessa's yellow eyes flickered open fully, and her gaze locked onto the man sitting in front of her, Leon Carter. He was calm, his expression unreadable, just like before. He wasn't standing tall like a victorious warrior. He was just watching, studying her. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken words. Vessa tested her restraints. Solid, unbreakable. But she had been trained for situations like this. She had been captured before, tortured, interrogated, left to rot in the dungeons of enemy warlords. She had always survived, and this time would be no different. She sat up straighter, masking the pain in her ribs. Is this how humans fight their battles? Her voice was cold, sharp. You chain your enemies like frightened children. Leon didn't react, just tilted his head slightly. If I were frightened, you wouldn't be alive. Vessa bared her fangs in a sneer. Then why am I here? Leon leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees. Because you're not my enemy. That stopped her. She had fought hundreds of battles, conquered planets, crushed entire fleets. She had never heard those words from an opponent before. Not my enemy. What are you playing at, human? She spat. Leon shrugged, just stating a fact. Vessa's jaw clenched. She had spent her whole life believing humans were weak, fragile creatures, no match for the Zarkari. But this man, had taken her down like she was nothing. He had to be different. An experiment. A genetic mutation. Something unnatural. And yet, he looked so ordinary. No towering muscles, no monstrous strength. Just a human in worn armor, with the kind of eyes that had seen too many battles. You fought well, Leon continued, studying her like a puzzle he was trying to solve. Better than most of your kind. Vessa scoffed. Spare me your false praise. Leon smirked. It's not false. He leaned back, stretching. The Zarkari are strong, no doubt, but strength alone doesn't win wars. Vessa narrowed her eyes. And what does? Leon's gaze didn't waver. Endurance. That word again. She hated it. The Zarkari valued power. They conquered. They crushed. They dominated. Strength was about control, about making sure no one stood against you. But humans, they were different. This man, he fought with something else. She had seen it in his eyes, in his movements. A kind of willpower that didn't break, no matter how hard she struck. Vessa forced herself to stay calm. You think humans are superior? Leon shook his head. No, just different. Vessa stared at him. This was a trick. It had to be. She had been captured before. She knew how this worked. The enemy would break her down, try to turn her, use her against her people. It wouldn't work. She straightened her back, her voice filled with venom. You won one fight, human. That does not make you superior. Leon's lips quirked into a slight grin. Oh, I never said I won. Vessa's jaw clenched. You. Before she could finish, the ship shuddered violently. A deep alarm blared, red warning lights flashing across the walls. Leon stood immediately, pressing his fingers to his earpiece. Report. A voice crackled through. Unknown vessels inbound, Commander. They're not Zarkari. Leon's expression darkened. Not Zarkari. Vessa's heart dropped. She knew who it was. Leon's sharp eyes flicked to her, sensing the shift in her posture. You know them. Vessa didn't answer. The ship shook again, harder this time. They were under attack. Leon grabbed his weapon, moving toward the door. Then, as if thinking twice, he turned back. His dark eyes met hers. You help us fight, he said. And I let you go. Vessa laughed, shaking her head. You must be desperate if you're asking for my help. Leon didn't smile. I'm not desperate. He stepped closer. I just know you don't want to die here. Vessa's amusement faded. He was right. She didn't know what terrified her more, the idea of fighting alongside a human, or the fact that, deep down, she knew she was going to say yes. A battle like no other. Vessa felt the ship tremble beneath her, the metal groaning as something massive hit its hull. The red emergency lights painted the room in a deep, pulsing glow. This was not a standard attack. Leon Carter remained still, his dark eyes scanning her, waiting for an answer. "Help us fight, and I let you go." His words echoed in her mind. Vessa wanted to refuse. She wanted to spit in his face and tell him that no human, no matter how strong, could command her. But she knew what was coming. And if these were the enemies she thought they were, neither the humans nor the Zarkari were ready. Another explosion rocked the ship. This time, the impact was closer. Leon turned, speaking into his earpiece. "Status." A voice crackled through the comms. "They're boarding, sir. Outer hull breached. We've lost contact with engineering." Leon cursed under his breath. He glanced at Vessa, then at the reinforced door behind him. He didn't have time to debate. He had a choice to make. Without a word, he reached forward and pressed a button on the wall. Vessa's restraints clicked open. She lunged. Leon was ready. He sidestepped her attack effortlessly, twisting her arm just enough to make her stop, but not enough to injure her. "I'm not your enemy," he said, voice calm. "If I were, you'd still be chained." Vessa bared her fangs but didn't attack again. Not because she trusted him, but because there were bigger threats closing in. "Where's my weapon?" she demanded. Leon smirked, pulling a sleek energy blade from his side and tossing it to her. "Try not to stab me in the back." Vessa caught it with ease, testing its weight in her hands. It wasn't hers, but it would do. The ship trembled again. A loud, inhuman shriek echoed through the halls. Leon's entire posture changed. He tensed, not in fear, but in readiness. Vessa frowned. So he knew. These weren't ordinary invaders. They were Vorac, the first wave. Leon led the way, moving with silent precision. Vessa followed, her instincts on high alert. The ship's once pristine halls were now torn apart, sparks flying from broken panels. The air smelled of smoke and something worse, a thick, acrid scent that meant only one thing: death. They reached an intersection where human soldiers were taking cover behind makeshift barricades. Their weapons were raised, pointed at the twisting shadows in the corridor ahead. "Commander," one of them, a young woman with a cut across her forehead, turned to Leon. "We lost half the squad in the first wave. The Vorac air." She never finished. A blur of black metal and flesh slammed into her, ripping her from the barricade. A scream. Then silence. Vessa barely had time to react before the creature rushed forward. It was unlike any enemy the Zarkari had ever faced. Towering, sleek, half machine, half organic, its body twisted and contorted unnaturally. It had no eyes, just a black, shifting mass for a face. Leon moved first. He raised his rifle and fired. But the Vorac didn't stop. It absorbed the energy blasts, its body shifting, as if it was drinking in the power. Leon cursed. Non-energy weapons switched to kinetics. Vessa didn't wait. She lunged, swinging her blade in a sharp arc. The Vorac dodged, but barely. It wasn't invincible, just fast. Vessa grinned. Finally, a real fight. She struck again, her blade finding purchase in the creature's arm. The Vorac shrieked, its body spasming violently before it ripped its own arm off, and kept coming. Leon moved beside her, driving a combat knife directly into its skull. For a second, nothing happened. Then the Vorac collapsed. Silence. Leon exhaled, pulling his knife free. The blade was covered in something black and oily. "They're evolving," he muttered. Vessa frowned. "You've fought them before." Leon didn't answer immediately. His jaw tightened. "Yeah. And we lost." Before Vessa could respond, more screeches echoed through the ship. Dozens. The first wave had just been a test. Now, the real attack was coming. The truth about the Vorac. Vessa knew they wouldn't survive if they kept fighting like this, not unless they understood what they were dealing with. She grabbed Leon's arm, surprising him. "We can't win like this." Leon gave a dry chuckle. "Tell me something I don't know." Vessa hesitated for a brief moment. Then she made her choice. "They weren't here for you. They were here for me." Leon's expression shifted instantly. "What?" Vessa exhaled. "The Vorac don't just attack at random. They follow a pattern. They target specific beings, not just species. And they've been tracking me." Leon studied her. He wasn't stupid. He knew she was telling the truth. "Why?" he asked. Vessa hesitated. Then the lights flickered off completely. A deep, rumbling growl filled the air. Leon turned toward the sound. "We're out of time." Vessa tightened her grip on her weapon. In the darkness, something moved. Something far worse than before. The unstoppable enemy. Darkness swallowed the ship. The emergency lights flickered once, then died completely, leaving only the glow of sparking wires and the distant red shine of the breach alarms. Vessa tightened her grip on her weapon, her sharp Zarkari vision adjusting faster than a human's. But even with her enhanced eyesight, she couldn't see the enemy. Leon Carter stood beside her, his breath steady, his weapon held firm. He didn't panic. That was the first thing she noticed. Even with total visibility loss, with unknown horrors hunting them, the human remained calm. Vessa wasn't sure if that was impressive or insane. A metallic skittering sound echoed through the corridor, like claws scraping against steel. Leon motioned to his squad. "Sound off." Here, a soldier's voice. Still breathing. Another. Silence. One voice was missing. Then, a scream. It came from the far end of the corridor, sharp and sudden. Vessa turned her head just in time to see a shadow vanish into the ceiling. The soldier was gone. No blood. No remains. Just gone. Leon clicked his earpiece. "They're picking us off. Stay close. Cover each other. We move as one." Vessa knew it was a good tactic if they were fighting something that played by the rules. But the Vorac never did. Something was wrong. They were being hunted, yes, but this wasn't a standard attack. This was a test. A predatory strategy. The Vorac weren't rushing in to kill them all. They were probing their defenses, studying them. That meant they had a plan. And that meant something worse was coming. The first real fight. The next attack came without warning. A Vorac drone, smaller than the first but faster, dropped from the ceiling. It moved on all fours, its limbs long and unnatural. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth black plating. Leon reacted instantly, raising his kinetic rifle and firing 3 rounds into its chest. The bullets hit. The Vorac didn't stop. Leon barely had time to dodge as a serrated claw slashed through the air where his throat had been. Vessa was faster. She spun, her energy blade slicing clean through the Vorac's side. The wound sizzled, black smoke rising. The creature shrieked, a sound that sent a sharp pulse of pain through her skull. Leon pressed the attack, jamming his combat knife directly into the creature's head. The Vorac convulsed violently, then stopped. Dead. For a moment, silence. Then, more shrieks. Dozens. Vessa's stomach tightened. They had been waiting for that. She turned to Leon. "We can't stay here. They're drawing us in." Leon didn't argue. He clicked his earpiece. "Fall back position. Everyone move." The humans ran, moving through the corridors in tight formation. Vessa stayed close to Leon. She hated it, but this was not the time for pride. They needed to survive. Vessa's secret. They reached a secured blast door. Leon punched a code into the panel, and the thick metal slab slid open. Inside, he barked. The remaining soldiers rushed through. Leon went last, hitting the lock sequence behind him. The door sealed shut. Silence. Vessa exhaled. The room was small, reinforced. Weapons lined the walls. A temporary safe zone. For now. Leon turned to her, his eyes sharp. What do they want with you? Vessa hesitated. She had been dreading this moment, but there was no avoiding it anymore. The Vorac aren't just an enemy, she admitted. They are something else. Leon folded his arms. Try again. Vessa's fingers curled into fists. She hated explaining herself to a human. But if she didn't, they would all die. The Vorac don't attack planets at random. They don't just kill for conquest. They choose their targets carefully. And they don't kill everyone. Leon's gaze darkened. They take prisoners. Vessa nodded. Leon frowned. Why? Vessa exhaled. She hated this part. Because they are building something. The room fell silent. Leon's face was unreadable, but his voice was cold. Building what? Vessa's throat tightened. A new kind of soldier. A new kind of life form. They steal DNA from the strongest warriors they can find. They test, they experiment, and when they are finished. She hesitated. Leon stepped closer. They make something worse. Vessa nodded slowly. Leon exhaled, rubbing a hand down his face. So that's why they want you. Vessa clenched her jaw. They want my blood. Leon's face was unreadable. And what happens if they get it? Vessa looked away. The answer was too horrible to say out loud. Leon got it anyway. They'll make something stronger than you, stronger than all of us. Vessa nodded once. Leon ran a hand through his short hair. Great. Another problem. Then, as if on cue, boom, the entire blast door bent inward. Something massive slammed against it again, leaving a deep dent in the reinforced steel. A low, inhuman growl vibrated through the walls. Vessa froze. She knew that sound. Leon grabbed his rifle. What is that? Vessa turned slowly, her face pale. The first of its kind. Leon frowned. Meaning? Vessa swallowed. It's already been made. The third slam cracked the metal door. Leon raised his gun. His face was still calm, but his grip had tightened. Vessa stepped beside him, gripping her blade. Leon exhaled. You know, I was hoping for an easy day. Vessa smirked, despite herself. Then you chose the wrong war, human. The door exploded open. The Vorac's new creation stepped inside. Vessa and Leon had only seconds to react. Lost on a hostile world. The blast door exploded inward. The force sent Vessa and Leon flying back, crashing into the steel walls. Smoke and fire filled the air, alarms blaring in the ruined chamber. And then it stepped inside. The creature was twice the size of a human, its body a grotesque mix of organic muscle and black, shifting metal. Its limbs twitched unnaturally, claws flexing as if testing their new form. The worst part, its eyes. Vorac drones never had eyes. But this one did, and they glowed with a familiar, eerie yellow light. Leon's voice was sharp. It has Zarkari DNA. Vessa's blood ran cold. They had already started. The hybrid tilted its head, studying them. Then it moved. Fast, too fast. Leon barely had time to roll aside before the creature's clawed hand slammed down, shattering the floor beneath him. Vessa was already moving, blade igniting as she lunged for the kill. She struck. The blade sank into its side. And the creature didn't even flinch. It turned its head toward her, its glowing eyes locking onto hers. Then, with terrifying ease, it ripped the blade out of its own flesh and tossed it aside. Vessa's breath hitched. It didn't feel pain. Leon opened fire. Bullets hit the creature's chest, ripping through muscle and armor like plating. But the wounds sealed almost instantly. We need to move, Leon barked. Vessa agreed. She grabbed Leon's arm and pulled him backward just as the creature swung. The force of its attack ripped straight through the reinforced wall, carving a hole into open space. Wind howled. A hull breach. Vessa barely had time to process it before the ship lurched violently, alarms screaming in warning. The gravitational pull shifted, and suddenly, everything was being sucked out into space. "Hold on," Leon shouted. Too late. Vessa felt her body ripped from the floor, spiraling toward the black void. She reached out, grabbed for anything. Her fingers brushed against Leon's. And then, everything went dark. The crash. Vessa woke up gasping. The first thing she felt was pain. Her body ached, her limbs felt heavy, and her vision was blurry. The second thing she felt was heat. She was alive. She lay sprawled in the wreckage of an escape pod, its hull cracked and smoking. The sky above her was a deep, dark red, twin suns burning in the distance. She was on a planet. She groaned, pushing herself upright. Her armor was damaged, her weapon missing. But she was breathing. That was a start. Then, a voice. "Took you long enough." Vessa turned her head and saw Leon sitting a few feet away, leaning against a rock. His face was bloodied, his arm in a makeshift sling. But he was alive. She exhaled, half in relief, half in frustration. "Where are we?" Leon glanced around at the vast, desolate landscape. Towering, jagged cliffs surrounded them, and the sky crackled with energy storms in the distance. "No idea," he admitted. "But judging by the wreckage, we're the only survivors." Vessa's eyes narrowed. And the hybrid. Leon's jaw tightened. Didn't see it in the wreckage. Meaning, it was still alive. Somewhere. Vessa pushed herself to her feet, wincing. She turned to Leon, watching as he tried, and failed, to get up. She sighed. "You humans are more trouble than you're worth." Before he could argue, she grabbed him by the waist and lifted him over her shoulder. Leon groaned. "I hate this." Vessa smirked. "Now you know how I felt." The long walk. They walked for hours. The planet was harsh, unforgiving. The air was breathable, but heavy, the heat pressing against their bodies like a living thing. Leon limped beside her, his expression unreadable. He didn't complain. Vessa had to admit, she respected that. At some point, he finally spoke. "Why did you help me back there?" Vessa frowned. "Because you are not dead weight. Yet." Leon chuckled, though it came out weak. "I'll take that as a compliment." She hesitated. Then, in a rare moment of honesty, she added, "Because you saved me first." Leon glanced at her. "That's a pretty un-Zarkari thing to say." Vessa sighed. "And you are not a normal human." For a moment, silence. Then Leon smirked. "Guess we make a good team." Vessa didn't answer, but she didn't deny it either. The enemy returns. Just when they thought they were safe. A low growl echoed through the canyon. Leon froze. Vessa spun, blade ready. Then, emerging from the shadows, it stepped forward. The hybrid had survived. But it wasn't alone. More creatures emerged from the cliffs, smaller than the hybrid, but faster, their bodies twitching unnaturally. Vessa's grip tightened. "We are outnumbered." Leon exhaled. "When are we not?" The creatures charged. Vessa and Leon stood their ground. This time, they fought together. The true test of strength. The creatures charged. Vessa and Leon had seconds to react. Vessa's blade ignited in her hands, its glow cutting through the crimson haze of the alien sky. She didn't wait. She moved first, slicing at the nearest attacker. The creature dodged, impossibly fast, twisting its grotesque form in ways that should have been impossible. Leon fired his rifle, kinetic rounds slamming into another enemy. The bullets hit, but did nothing. "Great. They're adapting," Leon muttered. Vessa snarled, spinning her weapon in a brutal arc. She aimed for joints, weak points, anything that would slow them down. But these weren't ordinary Vorac drones. They had been made for one purpose: to hunt her. The hybrid, the massive fusion of Zarkuri and Vorac genetics, stalked toward them, its glowing yellow eyes locked onto Vessa. It wasn't rushing in. It was watching, calculating. Vessa had fought countless battles, but something about this creature's gaze sent a cold chill through her. It was studying her. Leon cursed, ducking as a smaller drone lunged at him. He pivoted, using its own momentum to slam it into the rock wall before delivering a brutal knife strike to its throat. It didn't kill it, but it bought them time. Vessa exhaled sharply. They were outnumbered, outmatched, and running out of options. And then, the ground beneath them collapsed. The fall into darkness. The rocky terrain had been unstable from the start. Leon had just enough time to yell, "Move!" before the entire ground gave way beneath them. Vessa barely managed to twist midair, grabbing onto Leon's arm as they tumbled into the abyss. They fell hard, crashing onto uneven stone, rolling across a surface covered in dust and debris. The impact knocked the wind from Vessa's lungs. Leon groaned beside her. "We really have to stop falling off things." Vessa gritted her teeth and forced herself to sit up. They had landed in a cavern, a massive underground ruin of some kind. Strange markings lined the walls, glowing faintly with an eerie blue light. The air was heavy, thick with something ancient. Leon pushed himself upright, his breath ragged. Well, that was lucky. Vessa wasn't so sure, because they weren't alone. The secrets of the ancients. The cavern was old, far older than anything Vessa had ever seen. The markings on the walls were not human, not Zarkuri, not even Vorac. Something older. Leon ran a hand over the strange symbols, his fingers tracing the intricate lines. They pulsed beneath his touch. Vessa narrowed her eyes. "What is this place?" Leon exhaled. "Not sure, but I don't think we fell here by accident." Then, the whispers began. Faint at first, distant voices echoing through the chamber. Not words, exactly. Thoughts. Vessa stiffened. "Do you hear that?" Leon nodded slowly. "Yeah, and I don't like it." Then the glowing symbols shifted. They weren't just carvings. They were data, a record. And suddenly, Vessa understood. "This is a warning," she murmured. Leon tensed. A warning about what? Vessa's jaw tightened. The Vorac. Leon frowned. "That's not news. We already know they're bad." Vessa shook her head. "No, we don't. We thought they were a biological race, some kind of parasite that infects others. But this," she gestured at the shifting symbols, "this says otherwise." Leon's expression darkened. "Then what are they?" Vessa's voice was quiet. "A weapon. The truth about the Vorac. The Vorac weren't a species. They had been created. A long time ago by an unknown civilization. A race that had tried to build the ultimate biological weapon. One that could adapt, evolve, and never be truly destroyed. The Vorac weren't just mindless creatures. They were programmed." Leon cursed under his breath. "Great, so we're dealing with a self-learning superweapon." Vessa exhaled. "And now it's learning from us." Leon clenched his fists. "We have to stop it." Vessa gave a humorless smile. "That is the first smart thing you said today, human." Leon rolled his eyes. "Let's just find a way out of here before your new fan club shows up." As if on cue, a low, guttural growl filled the cavern. Vessa and Leon turned just in time to see the hybrid drop down from above. It had followed them. And this time, it wasn't alone. The final stand in the ruins. The hybrid lunged. Vessa dodged, rolling to the side as its clawed hand slammed into the stone, cracking the ground beneath them. Leon opened fire, his rifle kicking against his shoulder. The bullets hit their mark, but the creature barely slowed. Vessa moved in, striking fast. She targeted its legs, aiming to cripple its movement. But the hybrid had learned. It twisted, catching her blade mid-swing. Vylessa's eyes widened. No, impossible. With a single brutal motion, the hybrid snapped her weapon in half. She stumbled back, unarmed. Leon fired again, but suddenly, the cave walls trembled. The battle had disturbed something. The ruins were collapsing. Leon grabbed Vylessa's arm. Time to go. Vylessa growled. We can't outrun it. Leon's eyes flickered toward the glowing symbols on the wall. Then he made a choice. He pulled a grenade from his belt. Vylessa's eyes widened. Are you insane? Leon grinned. Usually. He threw the grenade directly at the unstable ceiling. Boom. The explosion ripped through the cavern, sending debris crashing down. The hybrid let out a furious roar, but it was too late. The entire structure caved in. Vylessa and Leon ran. They barely made it out before the ruins collapsed completely, trapping the hybrid beneath tons of rock. Silence. Then, Leon exhaled sharply, hands on his knees. Well, that was terrible. Vylessa just stared at the wreckage. It wasn't dead. Not yet. But for now, they had won. She turned to Leon. For the first time, she saw a human as something more than weak. He had endured. And now she finally understood. You fight like a Zarkari. Leon smirked. And you don't fight like an enemy. Vylessa didn't answer. Because, for the first time in her life, she didn't feel like one. The final stand. The dust had barely settled. The ruins lay in complete collapse, massive chunks of rock sealing the underground cavern like a tomb. Vylessa and Leon stood side by side, their bodies covered in dust and wounds, their battle not yet over. Because they knew, varied or not, the Vorac hybrid wasn't dead. Not yet. Leon wiped blood from his forehead, exhaling sharply. That won't hold it forever. Vylessa agreed. She could feel it. A wrongness in the air. The hybrid was alive. It was healing, and when it broke free, it would be stronger than before. They had to end this. Now, the final plan. Leon checked his weapon. Half a magazine left. That wouldn't be enough. He turned to Vylessa. You got any bright ideas? Vylessa studied the collapsed ruins, her golden eyes narrowing. We can't keep fighting it. Not like this. It's evolving faster than we can kill it. Leon frowned. Then we changed the rules. Vylessa's gaze flickered to the ancient ruins, the glowing symbols still faintly pulsing under layers of dust. She stepped forward, pressing her palm against the strange carvings. The glow flared brighter, reacting to her touch. Leon took a step closer. What are you doing? Vylessa inhaled deeply. We were never meant to fight the Vorac directly. The ones who created them, they built a failsafe, a way to end them permanently. Leon's eyes widened slightly. You're saying this place is a weapon. Vylessa turned toward him. I'm saying we can trap it here. Seal it. Forever. Leon exhaled. And let me guess, activating this thing won't be easy. Vylessa smirked. Nothing worth doing ever is. Leon shook his head, muttering under his breath. I really hate this job. The awakening. The ground trembled beneath them. The ruins shifted, stones cracked, dust fell from above. And then, a single monstrous growl. Leon spun around. We're out of time. The hybrid burst free. The rocks exploded outward, debris flying in every direction. The massive creature rose from the wreckage, its body even more twisted than before. Its eyes burned with golden light. Vylessa clenched her fists. It absorbed the ruin's energy. Leon groaned. Perfect, just what we needed. A supercharged, undead nightmare. The hybrid stepped forward, claws scraping against the stone, its form shifting, adapting even as they watched. Vylessa turned to Leon. You keep it busy. I'll activate the seal. Leon blinked. Oh yeah, sure. I'll just keep it busy. No problem. Vylessa smirked. Try not to die. Then she ran. The last fight. Leon had fought many battles in his life. But this was a death sentence. The hybrid lunged at him, its speed almost too fast to follow. Leon barely dodged, rolling under its massive claws and unloading a burst of bullets straight into its back. No effect. The creature swiped at him. Leon ducked, but the shockwave from its strike sent him skidding across the ground. His ribs screamed in pain. Nothing he had could stop this thing. But he didn't need to win. He just needed to stall it long enough. Vessa's choice. Vessa reached the center of the ruins, her hands moving across the glowing symbols. They pulsed beneath her touch, reacting to her presence. "Come on, work," she snarled. The symbols flared brighter. The entire cavern shook. The ancient failsafe was awakening. But there was a problem. It needed power. Vessa felt it instantly. The ruins weren't like human or Zarkari machines. They needed something more than just an activation code. They needed life. Vessa's breath caught. She understood now. The civilization that built this place, they sealed the Vorac away at the cost of their own existence. The ruins required a sacrifice. Her hands curled into fists. She had always been ready to die in battle. She had accepted that. But now she had a choice. And for the first time in her life, she hesitated. She turned, her gaze falling on Leon Carter, still fighting, still enduring. He was bleeding, exhausted, outmatched. But he hadn't given up. He never gave up. And neither could she. Vessa gritted her teeth. Then she made her choice. The ultimate sacrifice. Leon barely dodged another strike when a golden light erupted behind him. He turned, eyes widening as he saw Vessa standing at the heart of the ruins, her entire body glowing. Leon's stomach dropped. "Vessa, don't." She met his gaze, and for the first time, her eyes were calm.